Hey folks, just before we get started with the video today, I want to talk about something that happened recently in the Magic community. As you may or may not know, about 1,100 employees have been laid off from Wizards of the Coast, and now they have to look for jobs during the Christmas period. You may have seen some of them on social media advertising themselves, and if you do, please give them a like or a share or a kind comment telling them how much you appreciate their work. These are the people that helped make Magic the Gathering and D&D such incredible games, and it's so important to show support for them now when they need it the most. Just a like or a comment or even a share or all three or any combination of them could help them land a new job or improve their mental states as they're going through this tough time. Again, these people helped make the games that we love so incredible, and it's really important to show support for the creators of the things you enjoy. So please, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of the video.
I always wanted to be a wizard.
Hello, it's me, the Magic Boy, bringing you some more cards I made instead of getting a job. The liposuction of Zordon has a real obsession with making its characters less interesting, doesn't it? Ganon starts off as a real person, a foreign ruler with magical powers, and ends up as a fairly generic main villain. Link doesn't get this treatment as much since he didn't have a personality to lose, but no one has it worse than Zelda herself in this regard. Take Ocarina. Zelda is a deposed princess that has to be essentially raised by the secret police of the former government so she can undermine the rule of the person that conquered them, all the while aiding Link in deposing Ganon. Then she reveals she was Zelda all along and gets immediately kidnapped. Oh, don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting a smash cut from regular gameplay to an Assassin's Creed-esque sequence where Zelda went around strategically killing Ganon's forces, even though that would be hilarious. It just means we don't have a clear understanding of Zelda's abilities. I mention this because today's cards will be a little more conjecture than evidence-based. If you think I totally missed the mark or that there was an obvious Zelda-related power I should have mentioned, feel free to tell me. But without further ado, let's talk about Zelda. And here she is, Zelda, Princess of Hyrule. As you can see, Zelda is a 2/2 Hylian enchantress that costs a Selesnya and has the following rules text. Whenever an enchantment spell you control enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Also, enchanted creatures you control get +1/+1, and if you sacrifice an enchantment, transform her. What we have here is your basic enchantress setup, but with an anthem and sacrifice effect thrown in. The reason I went for this is that Zelda's magic in most of the games seems to be centered around powering up her allies, depowering her enemies, and sealing away evil, so enchantments fit her very well. That was also the reason for the color. White was an obvious choice. Hyrule seems to be all about order, and Zelda is literally a princess. But I decided to go with Selesnya over Azorius because green is really into interdependence, and Zelda is always working with someone, usually Link. As for the sacrifice effect, well, consider that Zelda basically sacrifices her identity to become Sheik. The two are very different characters, especially when we go from young Zelda, who's quite naive but trusting of Link, to the more confident but more reserved Sheik. Which brings us to the back of the card, Sheik, Agent of Hyrule. Sheik is a 1/3 Hylian rogue with the rules text. Whenever an enchanted creature you control attacks, target player mills the top 4 cards of their library. Also, you can pay a Dimir and return an enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield, but only if it was put there this turn. Finally, when an enchantment you control enters the battlefield, transform Sheik back into Zelda. Let's address the change in power and toughness first. The reason I decided to go for a 1/3 instead of just leaving it as a 2/2 is that Sheik was trained to be kind of a spy. Sheik never actually fights anything, instead teaching you warp songs and giving you tips as the game goes on. But they show up in a bunch of places pretty mysteriously. The obvious explanation is that Sheik is a sneaky ninja and just slipped in undetected. But that got me thinking. Toughness in Magic the Gathering could function like armor class in Dungeons & Dragons. While AC is usually just how strong your armor is, it can also mean how nimble and good at dodging you are. So my thinking here is that Sheik sacrifices attack power for survivability in the form of sneaking around. As for the mill effect, the idea is to give the Zelda deck a few strategies to work with. You could go for a simple aggro mill strategy and either win through damage or ruining your opponent's evening. But the ability to mill yourself and bring enchantments back means you could potentially cheat in some pretty powerful stuff, like an archetype, Sigil of the Empty Throne, or even Cruel Reality if you really want to lose some friends. The lore reason is that Sheik's ultimate purpose is to help Link find all 7 sages who will in turn seal Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm. Since we're equating enchantments with sealing magic, and magic decks are associated with memories and knowledge, this ability represents Sheik's use of information and espionage to seal away evil. Speaking of which, what would an aura deck be without a unique aura of its own? Unmarketable, that's what. So here's Seal the Darkness. Seal the Darkness is an aura enchantment that costs 1 generic mana and a witch more, and has the rules text. Enchant target creature. When Seal the Darkness enters the battlefield, exile target creature until this spell leaves the battlefield. Enchanted creature has protection from spells, abilities, and creatures that share a color with the exiled card. This might seem pretty simple if you play this game. To normal people this probably sounds bananas, but in essence it's pay 5 mana, get rid of an opponent's creature, and give one of yours protection. However, it's a little more complicated than that. For instance, keep in mind that protection works more like Shroud than hexproof. So if you exile something that shares a color with your own spells, you won't be able to target your creature either. Basically, Seal the Darkness is a last resort. This is the card you play on something like a prized unicorn, with bonus points if it has an aspect of Gorgon on it already. Or if you have a game ender like Hydra Omnivore, all revved up and ready to go, this could give it some nice protection from removal while getting rid of a threat. Finally, and in the spirit of dealing with threats, we have Impa, Fierce Guardian. She's a 3/3 Hylian warrior that costs 2 generic mana and either 2 white, 2 blue, or a white and a blue. Impa has both Vigilance and First Strike, as well as the ability pay an Azorius and tap Impa. Then return an enchantment you control to your hand and tap a target creature. That creature doesn't untap during its owner's untapped step. That's right folks, we have secondary commanders. Impa is an interesting character in Ocarina. She becomes a sage, helps Link on his journey, trains Zelda in the Sheikah ways, is the only one who believes in her visions, and even went to fight an old evil with a stupid name to protect her village. So, Impa is characterized by her role as a guardian, hence the vigilance, and her ability as a protector, hence the first strike. The Water Not Like ability is representative of her keeping Bongo Bongo, I told you it was stupid, at bay until Link could defeat it, and I made her a 3/3 to show how she's almost a stronger version of Sheik, whom she trained. But why Azorius instead of like Dimir? Well, tap, untap, and bounce effects are more common in Azorius, which could lead to interesting synergies if you decide to run Impa as your commander. But lore-wise, it's like I said earlier, Impa is a guardian. Despite just how really dumb its name is, Bongo Bongo is a major threat, and not one that Impa is necessarily certain she can beat, but if it's to keep the peace and to keep people safe, she'll fight, even if it's just to buy time. Well, it took a little longer than usual, but here we are, the cards I designed for the Princess Zelda Precon. As always, let me know if you would have done anything differently, and if you want to design cards for this set, or just for fun, post it on our Discord. Who knows, maybe I'll do a fan card dissection one of these days. But first, an Impa's bicep-sized thank you to our patrons, Dorian, Liam Anderson, and Discordance. Without their help, these videos would at the very least take far longer to make. And thank you for watching. Do all of that good YouTube stuff if you want to help out the channel. It really goes a long way. Next time we're doing Ganondorf, and after that, who knows? But stay safe, stay watching, and stay magical. So long.